Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Shadowwraith and today I'm going to be talking about Astra Militarum in Warhammer 40k 9th edition and how they're going to stand, in my opinion, in the future, because when 8th first came out they were very strong, very strong, definitely one of the top armies in my opinion. But with this new edition I think they got some good bonuses, but they also got some nerfs. And we'll start off with the negative things first. So, we've of course got less CPs for them, because Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, were very good at farming CPs, because they could bring things like 3 battalions in a list, which was nuts, so they'd have tons of CPs. But now, you only get so many CPs, depending on the game size you play. On top of that, you actually have to pay CPs to bring detachments as well, and the amount of models you can bring in Astra Militarum can be ridiculous, especially if you're playing into a horde style kind of army, which is a real shame because it was one of their strong points, and they're going to end up with less CPs than other players now, so things like Custodes or even Death Guard. The only thing I can think of them fixing this is if they let you bring like multiple troop choices for a troop slot, so maybe like the platoons or something like that, which would be quite cool and quite fluffy as well. The other negatives I can think of is of course Overwatch now costing a command point, and you can only do it once per phase. So basically, if you're going to get charged by a bunch of things, you can only shoot at one of them. So you've got to save it for your best thing. Which can suck, because it's primarily a gunline army. And the last thing I can think of that is a big, nerf to Imperial Guard is the reduced table size. I don't know how much people are going to adhere to this, because I hear a lot of people saying they're going to keep to the 6x4, but the reduced table size just gives you, a little bit less of an edge with the 48-inch weapons and stuff like that. So the enemy will be closer to you, so if you're fighting a close combat army, they're going to get to you quicker, things like that. And that is a big difference. Now we're moving on to the positive things for Astra Militarum in 9th edition. Now, going off the reduced table size combat army kind of theme, we've got the penalty for multi-charging. So now you can't just say, I'm going to charge everything, because, you never know. If you declare any targets as a charge target, you have to make it within engagement range of all of the units you've declared, otherwise the charge is just failed. So there's no piling in to another unit behind them to fight again if you're berserkers or something like that. It doesn't matter, unless you roll a high enough charge, but it was very common for people to just charge everything. Okay, which is great for us. On top of that, if you do get charged and you've got a tank gunline, it's not the end of the world for you, not at all. Because tanks can now, not only can they move and shoot and ignore the heavy weapon -1 penalty, but they can also shoot into combat as long as it's not a blast weapon, because a blast weapon has a minimum range of 12 inches, and you can only shoot whatever you're in combat with, so they're going to be less than 12 inches from you. But if you're running some kind of tank battalion style list, the best thing to do is to hide your artillery and most of your blast weapons behind other tanks, so things like hellhounds or any kind of tank that don't come with blast weapons at all. And of course you have got your infantry to shield you if you need them to. But yeah, no, that's a massive bonus, because now the days of just tagging as many tanks as you can from a charge or a deep strike, which will just stop them for shooting like next turn and render them useless for a whole turn, if not more than that, because they're going to be struggling to shoot anything else apart from what's in their face. Now they're pretty much unaffected. They'll still have to shoot wherever they get charged by, but I mean, it's still something, and it's actually really scary. And I think that's really strong, because the only counter to tank gun lines was to charge the tanks unless you had a lot of modifiers to hit, so negatives to hit, so if you're playing Elder. But of course, that's been changed. which is massive for guard as well. Now there's a -1 cap for modifiers to hit when you're shooting at them. So no matter what they've got, if they've got all the buffs in the world that make them -4 to hit, that gets ignored after all the modifiers have been applied. So -1s, +1s, -2s. It will only ever be a max of -1 to hit or a max of +1 to hit. So that is really good for a 4+ ballistic skill army like Guard, because I play Guard and I've gone against Eldar before, and having -2, -3 to hit some targets is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's not even worth shooting at them, and it renders Guard useless. Unless you've got some shenanigans where you've got pluses to hit or auto-hitting weapons and things like that. It's just, yeah. It was very tough. I can see why they've done it, because it wasn't a fun list to play against. But at the same time, it does seem quite harsh on, Eldar, because literally people have built lists fully around that. But hey, it is what it is. Maybe they'll come out with something in the future where they get some other kind of defensive bonuses for Eldar, which isn't like modifiers to hit rolls. But Guard love it. Absolutely love it. So, the other thing that Guard love is the new blast rule. So, pretty much, what it is if you've got a blast weapon, you fire at infantry, and they've got at least 6 models, you will score a minimum of 3 hits on your randomly determined amount of shots. If they've got 11 or more models in that unit, then you get max amount of shots. Maximum, whatever the max dice can roll. So this is making me look at my Wyverns, who I have and I absolutely adore, because they usually do quite well for me anyway. But that is 24 shots you get if you fire out one of these units. Like, guaranteed that is how many shots you get if they've got 11 or more models in their unit. Now imagine having the Vigilist formations, where you can make your Wyvern shoot twice. And then you're playing Cadia, for example, or something, where you've got overlapping fields of fire. So you're +1 to hit, and you can reroll ones because you're Cadian. That is a disgusting amount of shots that are pretty much going to hit. Like, if you roll like a normal roll, you're going to hit with most of them. Rerolling ones, yeah, that's going to hurt a hell of a lot to any Horde faction. So looking at you, Tyranids or Orcs, which is a shame, because I mean Tyranids and Orcs weren't really up there, in my opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, they were good, like, to an extent. There were some amazing players who played them, but generically Orcs were struggling in 8th. Tyranids were as well. Sure, they could get the first turn charge, but sometimes that wasn't enough. And now, not only do like tanks get to shoot in combat, but you can't stop them from shooting next turn, and yeah, it's gonna hurt for them, I think. So maybe they'll get some tricks. I'll have to look more into Tyranids and Orcs and stuff like that. But I don't think this is necessarily bad for them. So, but yeah, it doesn't matter. This isn't a video about Orcs or Tyranids. It just came up. The other positive of 8th edition is morale. Okay, the new morale is absolutely fantastic for Imperial Guard, because basically what it is you take your leadership test. If you fail it, you roll a dice for every single model in that unit. On a 1, they run away. If you're under half strength, it's on a 1 or a 2, they run away. So what that means is I won't have a blob of guardsmen, and I lose, say, 15 of them, 15 out of 20, or even 10 out of 20, and my opponent can sit there and watch the rest run away. Like, guaranteed I'm going to lose a bunch of these models. Not anymore. Which not only means I get to keep more models on the table, I can also invest more points into tanks or more infantry, rather than elite slots for commissars. Because commissars are cool, don't get me wrong, I love their lore and stuff, but I'd rather spend the points somewhere else. That's, yeah, nice and simple. One of the big things that does need to be changed, though, when they get their own codex is the Talon need to get their regimental traits, looked over again, because we get that in the game now for free. So it kind of, I think it would upset some Talon players. I didn't play Talon, so I'm alright. I've been playing pretty much Steel Legion since 7th edition, so I love the models. And Catachans because they're amazing in 8th. And Sentinels are now more viable because of the no move and you can move and you don't get the penalty. Plus, they're pretty much unchanged in points when it comes to them armed with a multi-laser. And they only gone up 10 points if you give them a plasma cannon. So I can see plasma cannons getting stuck onto these, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So, where can I see Imperial Guard being? It's a hard one to place because, obviously, my first thought was mechanized. I think a mechanized list will do really, really well in this edition because blast weapons are good against infantry, and they still work fine against vehicles. You don't get any bonuses, but that's fine. But the only downside to that is I think the Leman Russ battle tank's gone up quite a lot of points. They've gone up, 28 points? Just for the battle cannon with a heavy bolter on the front sponson. That's not great. That's quite expensive. People tend to be giving them flamers, which is what is looking like they're going to be putting on their Leman Russes. Flamer sponsons with a battle cannon. That's an extra 30 points, which is quite a lot. But if you can justify the extra 30 points, which, you can, then, yeah, Mechanized could really, really work. You've got your Sentinels to grab objectives. They're pretty quick. They can move and shoot with their heavy weapons, giving them plasma. They've only gone up like 10 points for that. You've got Wyverns and stuff to fire as support, and they haven't gone up too many points. Only 20 or so. 22 points they've got up, which is okay. That's not too bad. So it is viable to bring Leman Russes with artillery supporting them, and then screw it, why not summon infantry to screen them after that? That's how I can see them being played. Yeah, you can still run them as Catachans, but they're not going to get a massive bonus because they'll be fighting against hordes. But it's still not like killed Catachans, because a lot of the guard tank weapons, so the battle cannons and things like that, blast weapons, I have been using for anti-tank, like the Basilisk. I shoot at tanks all the time and monsters because it's pretty decent. And to be able to re-roll the amount of shots you get because you're not firing into a horde unit, it's still invaluable. So yeah, I still see the tank spam being a good list. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm going into this new edition with Death Guard and Scions because I love Scions and that's what I had before. And then I will be playing around with some Guard a bit later on when I get more of a hang of 9th edition. But let me know your thoughts and opinions of Guard in 9th edition. Let me know how they'll affect your game, whether that be you playing with them or against them, and let me know where you think they're going to stand later on in the year when 9th edition is fully down and people start going to events again and stuff like that. Do you think they're going to be a top tier army, or are they going to get bumped down a little bit? Who knows? Only time will tell. On paper they look pretty good. The blast rule is great. It is a bit overrated in some cases. People getting a bit hyped about it, but it is a good rule. Okay, so thank you ever so much for listening, and if you like the video, do hit the like button, and if you're feeling especially saintly and the God Emperor is shining his light upon you, do hit that subscribe button. Even if you don't do either of those things, I still hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.